Moose here, bringing a list of held items that I'd like to see come to Pokemon Unite. Of course, when it comes to held items, I try to stay as true to some degree as how they are in the OG Pokemon. I thought that a lot of the items that they brought over from OG Pokemon, at least, they somewhat tried to keep them how they are, and I want to keep that theme going. I love it when games incorporate things from other games in the same franchise and try to make them what they are in a new type of game. So we're gonna start off with Toxic Orb here. Of course, everyone loves Toxic Orb. One of my favorite items in OG. Oh boy, upon being hit by a melee move or ability, so it could be like maybe Power Punch, anything that could be melee based. Maybe even basic attacks on range characters. I'm not too sure on that. That would have to get to specifics. But you would end up taking max life damage over 5 seconds, and of course, it does not stack. Would not stack between multiple people using Toxic Orb. That would be a little too insane. Some characters would get a little destroyed by that. It would just reset the duration of the effect if they get attacked or hit again. Of course, the raw stats are defense. What else could I throw on this item? Maybe cooldown. But we have enough cooldown for at least special attackers. This could be seen maybe on like a Slowbro or something. Characters that just can live for a long time on their own. Plus, he could probably even rock this and end up doing some nice damage with it just on the side. Effects like this are things that I like to see because it doesn't necessarily change the game in a drastic way, but it could open the opportunity for team building. Like, okay, we'll have Slowbro run Toxic Orb, or Blizzy run Toxic Orb, and you run these. I like to see one-offs on teams. People actually team building how items, and not just go body band, muscle band, focus band, or triple damage. I mean, hey, I love to see it all, or double cooldown with choice specs. That's kind of all we see right now in the game. So I'd like to see some mix-ups. Next, we're gonna do zoom lens. It was a little hard to incorporate this item. I kind of had to change it how it is, how it used to be in OG Pokemon. For every 4% HP your Pokemon's missing, increase all damage by 1.5 to 2.5% and caps at 25%. This could be really cool to see some people potentially make plays at low life specifically. I know there could be some BM stuff like, Crustle being low health and alting and just having this massive damage boost that could potentially run through the team with his reflect damage. Hey, I'd love to see it. Crystal deserves some love, but I'd love to also see this item maybe be used on, like, I don't know, Razor Leaf Decidueye, or maybe Spirit Tackle Decidueye. Be low health and just shoot a bunch of arrows at people. That 25% would be very nice. And you don't have to be minimum life either for the full effect of proc. I forgot what it would be. Maybe like around 70%, 75%. I think you'd get the full benefit. With 25% health, so you'd get the full benefit, 25% extra damage. So, it'd be nice. And raw stats, of course, crit chance. What else could I put on an item that is like this? Zoom lens, how it is from the OG Pokemon. Of course, this win could be a little bit controversial. Terrain extender increases the duration of hazard stay on the battlefield by a percentage. It is a very large percentage, but that's because there's not many terrain effects in the game. Maybe you could count something like A9 Avalanche, for example. But all I could really think about would be Crystal Stealth Rocks and Duracell Rocks. There's not really many sources of it, so I wanted to give some good stats on it to warrant running it over a lot. There's a lot of good items in Unite. And especially this, it could be interesting with Stealth Rocks. I know a lot of people would be scared about this. They'd be like, wow, 50% duration could be insane. Stacking it on like maybe Rotom before it spawns, getting a bunch of chip damage in, because it will do a lot of damage, because how the Stealth Rocks works, it builds up over time. So you'd get some extra ticks in, and if you stayed in that whole duration, I mean, that can be your fault, but maybe like you'd Stealth Rock someone and Slowbro hold some on top of it, and they just disappear. It'd be pretty cool to see. I don't think it'd be broken. I definitely would think Crustle would run it, and I think Crustle deserves it. I'm not a Crustle lover, but I do think he needs some love for sure. He did get some buffs with the Xers though. It is pretty nice. Safety goggles. This one I really, really want to see something like this in the game. Allies around you, within 3 meters. So that'd be like basically an auto range for maybe just like a short range. Like maybe Sylveon, for example. Like Sylveon's auto range isn't massive like Cinderace, but it still is good enough. So allies within that distance will take 9% less damage, increase their resistance to CC by the same amount. Does not stack, with a lot of people running at the same time, of course. Raw HP would just be a lot of HP move speed. I'd love to see something like this in Unite. I love support items. I love items that you can build one-offs of, just like Toxic Orb. just something that you can run just to give your team benefits or figure out who's gonna run this. Snorlax would run it. Maybe Blissey would run it. Doesn't give any special attack, but it does. The stats do leave room for opportunity there. Snorlax move speed. Everyone kind of hates move speed because Pokemon start with like 3,800 or something like that, some really high amount. But honestly, move speed's not a bad stat. It just giving move speed just helps you get to places. Even that 0.25 seconds faster can mean a difference between like getting something or being in position for something. Move speed is a good stat, especially when you combine X speed and it raises it by a percent. Like it does matter. But I'd love to see safety goggles, something like that in Unite. Heavy duty boots. This is probably my favorite highlight I made just because reduced duration of all incoming CC by up to 30%. And the game calls that stat resistance. You can look up like a resistance chart online. Supporters and defenders get more resistance than attackers and stuff, or is it all rounders and supporters? I don't quite remember, but I know the game does give more resistance to certain classes in the game. Although it's hard to tell. They don't really tell you these things, and it would stack with the passive resistance you get. So I think you get up to 20% by level 7 or so, something like that, and then defenders get up to like 25 or 30%. So this would basically give you a bunch of extra CC resistance. One thing that would not make this immediately broken and everybody would run this is because there's a lot of CC in the game that has set duration. So if I remember right, something like Wiggly Sing, no matter how much like resistance you have or something like that, unless you have full heal or a way to break out of it with like your own Wiggly ult, you're taking the full duration of the Wiggly Sing, no matter how much resistance you have. So, there's a lot of things that would still give full CC, but it would be nice to see something like this, like Pikachu Vault Tackles a set duration too, but the Thunder Shock would, you'd break out of it faster. So it would definitely shift up the game a bit. I think I'd love to see this. I'd love to run this with double crit Dragonite with Outrage, just a bunch of CC resistance, especially since he gets CC resistance at 13 while in Outrage. This combined with Pink emblems eventually when they release those, combined with I think it would be so much fun. A bunch of CC resistance to be able to run a little bit more rampant. It'd be nice, people don't like CC very much, but I don't think it would be broken with the mechanics of how CC work in this game. Expert belt, of course. How could I not include expert belt? Sorry about the picture. It's the best one I could rip off from online. Increase crit hit chance by a percentage, which gets up to 18%, but reduce the crit hit damage by 15%. So it wouldn't even be good until you get to like 20. The item to 20. Of course, the raw sides to give attack and cooldown. Cooldown is such a needed stat. This I was a little worried about when I think about it in my head. I'm like, okay, I made this item. What Pokemon could potentially run this and become a absolute menace? And that's actually E-Speed Lucario, because E-Speed Lucario, these E-Speeds can crit, at least a twirl afterwards. Not the hit of E-Speed itself, but the twirl. So this could be really strong on like E-Speed Lucario, giving it a bunch of extra crit chance. Minus 15% crit damage, sure, whatever. Just run scope with it, and you basically nullify the crit hit damage minus effect, and you get this additional 24% crit chance on E-Speed. That's really good. Of course, it gives, maybe I could remove the attack on the raw stats. Maybe it's already good enough. Maybe the cooldown can stay. I just think attack items need some cooldown love. Attackers love cooldown too. It's not just the special attackers. We need to see some cooldown. I want to see Lucario run 30% cooldown and power up punch all over the place more than he already is. I'd love to see it. Anyways, I think this item will be great on just ADCs. Anyone loves crit. Even Absol probably like it just because of consistent crits. Whenever Absol doesn't crit, it feels bad. So this would just help consistency with how ADCs function in the game. But it would definitely be a lot stronger early. Like, if you think about 18%, you stack the crit emblems, you get 6%. You stack like Scopelands, you got 30% level 1. You don't really have attack stat to make that like as insane. Like, you don't have like a bunch of attack. Still, that would be a lot of crit chance early, so you can probably see some very BM strats like Wiggly. I don't know, Wiggly might be really funny seeing crit Wiggly. Next, we got Cleanse Tag. Cleanse Tag is an interesting one because on the first CC that you receive has to be a hard CC, not like a slow from like a Pikachu basic attack or A9 basic attack that just gives you a little bit slow. It has to be a specific stun or knockups, and it'll instantly remove that CC. The item will go on cooldown. Maybe I want to add that you'd also have like a 1 second like a 1 second immunity too. just to make it so that way you can't get restunned right away. But it'd be nice to have an item like this. Just the amount of times I've played like maybe E-Speed Lucario, and you just like E-Speed and you just get boop, oh, you're interrupted. Well, you're dead because your E-Speed got eaten. It would suck. It sucks. So this item would also have like a 30-second cooldown. It could be lower based on how strong it ends up being. I didn't want to make it too strong because if you combine it with heavy duty boots, you might get like a Snorlax that just cannot be CC'd. I didn't want to go too crazy on that world. So uh, it also maybe like Espeon or maybe Duraludon would be a better example. Duraludon passive. The item would trigger over the passive, so the item would have 30-second cooldown. So that would trigger first. Then his passive can trigger, and maybe the item on like the next fight will be back up. I didn't want to make it too short though, because it could create some pretty insane strats with running cleanse tag and heavy duty boots together. Of course, as a stats to give HP and cooldown, we need more cooldown. This would be like a support item basically. Maybe Mr. Mike would run it just that way he can like hit his confusion easier. Maybe something like that. Cooldown's a nice thing to have on anybody. Choice band. I had to include choice band. We have choice specs. We have so many special attacking moves. And this item I spent a really long time thinking about and trying to balance because it's very hard to balance this item while bringing over the intended effect of how it works from OG Pokemon. OG Pokemon, we all know, in case you don't know, when you use a move, you're locked into that move, but you gain a giant attack boost. I think it's 1.5 times. And in this game, I tried to bring over that same effect. Whenever you use a move, the other move will go on cooldown for 1.5 seconds. So, like, let's say you use Lucario Power Punch. Well, you can't use Lucario Bone Rush for 1.5 seconds, but the damage of the move that you use is increased by up to 16%. Also, it would be deal or heal to enemy/ally Pokemon, so it would also increase healing. I was skeptical to implement the heal part because, I just want to make sure that everyone can use it if they want to use it. And I know that might be a bad thing because, you'd have players who would just use it because they see the effect. But honestly, I think it's a fair enough balance. 1.5 second cooldown, that's a long time. That's a very long time to not have your moves. I tried to think like, okay, 1.25 seconds, 1 second might be too much. Maybe reduce the damage a little bit, but I want to have it be a prominent effect so you can tell, okay, that did a lot more damage, but he's not going to use the other move for 1.5 seconds, This wouldn't apply to Unites or anything like that. I don't want anything stupid to happen with Charizard ulting and having a bunch of extra damage with energy amp X attack. That'd be ridiculous. The raw stats, you could probably bump that attack down for sure. Maybe make it like 16 attack and 16 special attack. Just split it in half so that way anyone can use it. But I did focus it a little bit more on the attacker side, of course. Attackers need love. This one I wanted to make a very interesting approach to Amulet Coin because I thought about it. I was like, it could be cool. You receive up to 50% more Aeos energy on defeat of enemies, and scoring heals increased by the same amount. There used to be a meta back in Season 1 where Lucario would just scare everything and then heal the full off each minion that he kills. I don't want to see that ever again. That was very, very toxic. I don't want to see it. So, instead, you don't really heal much right now. You heal with like 10% max life. 15% max life wouldn't be game breaking at all. And mobs would drop more money too. So you can score more, maybe as like a Crustle would run this, or maybe a Talon would run this to farm better. And then on conversely, he would dunk more. But with the energy drop being increased too, the other thing you gotta think about is it's harder to dunk. So you can't just like, kill something and dunk it immediately as easily. You gotta have some kind of compromise there. So every point that you're dunking is 0.1 seconds. So if you're trying to dunk 10 energy, it's 1 second when you're standing on the goal zone by yourself. So if you killed the monkey early game, it'd be 5 energy, or you get like 3 energy. So you get about 5 energy. So dunking that compared to 0.5 seconds to 0.3 seconds, that's a big difference when you're getting auto attacked repeatedly over and over. Maybe it would still work out. Also, the more energy you dunk, the more XP you get. So this could increase the amount of XP into the system a little bit too. I just like to see more points and more ways to handle points. Maybe cashing your points in the heal or something like that. Not on the goal zone. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting ways you could use Amulet Coin and make it into a cool item. But I think this is fine how it is. an effect like this is fine. Now I want to get into Air Balloon, which it's a little red. Sorry about that if it's too bright. Air Balloon, I have two ways to think about Air Balloon. The first one I thought about it is that you'll have a red balloon attached to your Pokemon. It'll just kind of be like above your Pokemon, or it could be next to your health bar to the side or something. However they want to do it. And the attack that exceeds 10% of your Pokemon's max life pops the balloon, reducing the damage for up to 50%. It has a 15-second cooldown. So it's a short cooldown, but the thing is, it only proc on things that exceed 10% of your max life. Kind of like how Rocky Helmet does, but Rocky Helmet sucks. This would be very good against, things like maybe Power Punch Lucario, Spirit Shackle Decidueye. You would just get a lot of reduced damage from the initial arrow. That it would, you'd be able to fight a little bit better. Gives move speed and HP as raw stats because those are just kind of universally good. I think this item would be fine. It might need a buff actually. I think when it pops, it should reduce the specific attack damage by like 50%, and then give you like a 10% damage resistance buff for 1 second, just like a second, just to give you a little bit of additional defense, so that way it doesn't feel like too wasted. If it gets wasted on a bad move, I don't think this would necessarily see play, but I could definitely see a world where eventually it can see play based on the meta of the game. But right now, I don't think this item would necessarily see play. But I want to incorporate it. Thought it'd be cool. Now, the big one that I wanted to make is Life Orb. Everyone knows what Life Orb is. You consume, was it like 10% max life to deal a big multiplier damage. I don't know how much it is a Pokemon. 1.6 times, 1.4 times, whatever it is. You consume max life to increase the damage or healing of the ability that you next cast by up to 18%. And this effect cannot KO your opponent Pokemon, but it would bring you to 1 life basically. And the raw stats is 20 attack / 20 special attack. I think this item would be extraordinarily fun on specific Pokemon. The one issue I have with this is that Blissey could make very good use of it because of the raw special attack, for one. And for two, Soft Boiled heals both Blissey and another target. So it would basically be like you temporarily sacrifice a small amount of HP, which Blissey doesn't really care about her HP because she's got a lot of HP, to increase the healing by 18%, which would basically just heal her back up to full anyways. And without a cooldown on it, it'd be a bit sketchy, especially if you combined it with Choice Band from earlier or something like that. You'd be healing a lot. It would be very scary, honestly. There's a lot of Pokemon that can make some interesting use out of this. Like, again, I'd like to see the Decidueye run this with Spirit Shackle and just, like, shoot arrows. He would lose a lot of life, but he could also, like, life steal off of, like, a minion with autos and stuff. So he'd be shooting some nasty arrows. I would like to see this item in the game, personally. Maybe it could be toned down a bit. Just reduce the numbers to, like, 4% consume your own max life and up to 12% damage. You can always tone it down a bit to make it not as insane. But overall, I'd like to hear what your opinions are and what items I could introduce. I thought about maybe like Big Root, where you'd get Omni Heal for losing maybe a little bit of attack or something in the passive stats. There's a lot of items that Pokemon Unite can bring over from OG Pokemon. They would be really cool effects. And I really want to hear you guys' opinion. If you liked the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.